right, and welcome to the Wandering Mendicant Episode 1. I'm your host, Billy Sky, and we have with us today a great friend of mine, Thomas Lazar, a.k.a. Little Baby Ghandi. And we're going to be doing an interview and a podcast today for you guys. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool things and hopefully give you some insightful knowledge about Tommy's beautiful farm out here in Cow Sanctuary, which is in the Shenandoah Valley here in the northern hills of Virginia. So I'll just kick it off by passing the mic off to you, Tommy, and asking you about your property here. What's it like up in Shenandoah Valley, and what are some of the things that the listeners might like to know about this particular area of the country?
All right, well, let me just say thank you, Sky, for taking the time to talk and have this conversation. And the Shenandoah Valley. Shenandoah Valley is beautiful. It's a is this?
You can talk.
Am I facing talking to you?
Okay. No, sir. I have to face the camera or anything.
Okay.
It's just casually going to pick it up. So.
Okay. The Shenandoah Valley. I grew up hearing about the Shenandoah Valley my whole life. It's a beautiful, lush area. We're surrounded by the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Okay.
And my God, I could gush about it. It's just it's really amazing. Coming from the Big Island of Hawaii, which is where you and I met for the first time, which is in itself very beautiful and scenic and rural too. I don't know how many times I said rural. Transitioning from from Hawaii to this area in Virginia, I don't think we could have picked a more beautiful location. It's it's a hotbed of activity during the Civil War, so a lot of history there for history buffs.
Yeah, and you mentioned that we met, on the Big Island, so I thought that might be something cool we could kind of dive into, so yeah, we did. We met on the Big Island many a year ago, after I had moved there, and I was just working on an organic farm. It was a noni farm, which is a exotic fruit that's used for healing, and you were working there at the time, and I was just camping, and I remember that, meeting you that day, and you were kind of explaining to us a little bit about what we were doing as far as stomping the noni down or something like that, and you were living down at the bottom area. Yeah, just get your mud boots on and just stomp it on down. But yeah, I remember that evening going out there, and for the first time in my life, the question that was really pertinent to me that I needed to know was, why am I suffering? It was really, really glaring right in front of my face. I needed answers to this question, why am I suffering? And, shortly thereafter, Shankar Ananda, which, he's a mutual friend of both of ours, took me down to Garuda's Pizza Night, where they were having kirtan meditation. And that was a very eye-opening, enlightening, monumental moment in my life, because that was the catalyst, I guess you would call it. They kind of started answering these questions and bringing me closer to a state of peace inside. This podcast is called The Wandering Mendicant. And I tend to wander as far as a true wandering mendicant. I may be far off, but as far as a dictionary definition, a mendicant is someone who is prone to begging or asking for alms, and that I think is something that through humility, many of us reach that point in our lives where we need to beg for help or ask, for help and plead, with the Lord and with other living entities, just in order for us to survive in this struggle of life. And so we find that the title is appropriate, and maybe it's far-reaching, but I myself do tend to wander a lot, and so that's kind of one of the main encapsulations. And so from wandering here to wandering there, we've both ourselves have seemed to wander from the big island of Hawaii out into the eastern coast of the mainland United States. And it's been an interesting journey for both of us, And so I'm grateful that you've taken me into your home here and allowed me to stay for a few days and been able to participate in some of your wonderful family activities that you've got going on here. It's been really nice for me, really comforting, and it's not the first time, right? I've been here a few times before over the years, and it's kind of been exciting to see what has gone on with your farm and the progress and the different kind of evolution that's happened. So I was going to turn it back over to you and see if you'd like to tell anyone about some of the stuff you got going on.
Okay, yeah, well, just to piggyback off what you said about, being a guest here over the years. I mean, that's one thing that's really nice for me is it's like I've been a guest in a lot of people's houses, so the opportunity to give back, which in I want to say my spiritual journey has been really nice. Such a key thing is giving back what you've been given. So it's definitely a nice.
And what have you been given? If you're giving that back, what is it that you've been given?
Well, so many things. I mean, I guess that's just on a I don't know if you want to say like a material level, but comfort, creature comforts, I guess, a house, a couch, roof.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was, you talked about wandering. I mean, I was definitely, before, before I took up the process of bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness is what, I've been practicing for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I see the beads here.
Regularly.
The old Jagannath bead bag here. There's a lot of paraphernalia, Tulsi beads and things like that.
Oh yeah, I keep them. I got it tattooed on my knuckles. As a reminder. I try to keep them on hand all the time. That's a major anchor to in my life. In a daily practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. What is that practice like?
Japa meditation, japa yoga is one of the first things I learned in Krishna consciousness. Bhakti yoga, sometimes we'll hear referred to as both. It's what's called a transcendental meditation. Sound vibration is it's the hearing and repeating of transcendental sound. Most specifically, the different names of God, and what it does is it has a clearing, purifying effect on my consciousness, and kind of removes all the crap and the crud that's blocking my relationship with God and others. I have I've heard it referred to as like I have a pure self, and I'm looking in a mirror. It's like a cloudy mirror, and this hearing and repeating of transcendental sound. It's like taking my hand and wiping away the covering, so I can gradually see and see my real self and actually experience life.
When you say see, are you talking about with your eyes, or are you talking about more like direct perception, or?
Direct perception, it's like from the heart,
See from the heart.
seeing from the heart, yeah.
And that can be a tough thing, I think, for people to kind of grasp. I know, me at the beginning, many years ago, I was kind of like looking into, yoga and different mystic powers and mystic vision, and I was experimenting with a lot of psychedelics, and I kind of had that idea of like seeing with your third eye, being able to kind of like, perceive colors beyond just the gross senses, but to really see with the heart. I know that I was certainly feeling different things in my heart, and a lot of times I would kind of get intuitions or get like inclinations, like my heart would tell me not to go to a certain party that night, but at the same time, my mind would say, well, there's nothing else to do. What are you going to do? Just sit at home? So I would end up going to the party, but then something bad would end up happening, and then the next day I go, yeah, I would have been better off just not going and avoiding that, and my heart was telling me not to go the whole time. So is that kind of like what you mean about?
Yeah, I mean, it's me myself also having a history with addiction and the use of substances for self-realization or enlightenment, like, so to speak. I mean, it's definitely it's a was the process of I don't know. I struggle to find a word for it, but
Sobriety? Is that what you're talking about?
well, no, not even. It's like, well, I mean, like, just the process of self-realization in Krishna consciousness is it's a whole nother. It's a whole nother level beyond just, I don't want to say being sober or
right, because you just
it's a direct experience of my real self.
Right.
Totally different than, I mean, certain drug experiences or different processes. I mean, definitely we're catalysts to move in that direction, but I definitely I found what I was looking for, so to speak, when I took up the process of Krishna consciousness.
I noticed you said self. You said direct perception of the self. So I thought that would be a good moment to kind of stop and interject and discuss what is the Vedanta philosophy and topic of the self. Because I think that's a very important thing for people to understand. Both people that are watching us for the first time and have not been exposed to this philosophy, and also for those that are practicing this philosophy. It's a great reminder, because there's a passage in the Bhagavad Gita where it says that, the sage is illuminated, steadily absorbed in the self, and he finds peace in that knowledge of his true identity. And so something to that effect. Those are not the exact words, but the self, this information that came to me and that Tommy's speaking about is just absolutely the most profound thing that can save a person from the fear of death and from, lamentation and a lot of other, pain that comes along with the great problem that we're all facing here, because everyone that's born in a body is inevitably going to die. And it's the problem that no one wants to talk about. And we all just kind of like shove it under the rug to deal with later. And then when you're forced to deal with it, most people are in a really awkward position because they've spent their whole life not talking about it or dealing with it. And now all of a sudden they awkwardly have to deal with the fact that they're about to die. Their body's going to die. But there are some enlightened individuals that have already conquered and solved this problem, and they're living their life free of fear, knowing full well that everything has been taken care of with regards to their passage out of this body. And so we've kind of alluded to a little bit about it through that conversation, but in summation, the self is not the body. The self is the personality, the living particle, that life force that is causing the body to exist, grow, metabolize, and so on and so forth. And when the body dies, that self moves on into another form, whatever it may be, depending on that living entity's desires and karma. You know, for example, I've got this little, what's her name?
Sugar.
This is Sugar. Sugar is a living entity, and she's in a body of a chicken right now. But unlike other chickens, she prefers the company of humans. So she gets to hang out inside and, you know, have a good old time and get pets and cuddles. She's a lucky little girl. I myself am a living entity that's in a human body right now. Now, if you would have checked back 100, 200, 300, 1,000 years ago, this living entity in my body and this living entity in Sugar body would be in totally different bodies. And which kind of bodies? We don't specifically remember. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he remembers all of our past lives. In addition, he knows everything that's to come in the future. So that's one of the definitions of omniscient. So both Tommy and I connect on this practice of bhakti yoga. You know, it's part of our faith and something that we've both grown, been introduced to, and has found that it's profoundly helped us with our own lives, and have partaken in this practice and seen the results firsthand and watched it change some of these dark ailments and things that have been bogging us down, and it's helped us tremendously with overcoming them. And not only that, it's helped us upgrade our own existence and get us out of our bubble of selfishness to some degree or another. Not saying that we're all the way there, but it's helped us kind of learn how to live for others rather than just live for ourselves, which I think is just a good thing just to have out in the world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention that that noise in the background is Tommy's son, Shama. He's shooting marbles over there. So just because people are probably wondering, what is that noise? Yeah, we're getting marbles are being shot.
Yeah, it's not shooting marbles, but
He's rolling them.
rolling them.
And we'll introduce Shama here at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in real quick and kind of try to share a little bit about part of the journey that led me to the present, being in Shenandoah. I have a little bit of attention deficit disorder, so it's hard for me to stay on track sometimes. But I'll get back to it. I was thinking that many times over the years, people, because I live and work in a community that's not specifically centered on the practice of bhakti yoga, you know, and a little bit about that. It's like sometimes people ask me, I'll throw the word yoga out at work and such, and right away they go to the, you know, thinking that I'm doing all these like stretches and breathing kind of funky pretzel twisties and stuff like that, as I've heard. But Bhakti yoga in particular I've heard the term, it's the yoga of love and devotion. And
Well, that's
hey,
How about Shama? How you doing?
Sham's just
I think you.
Give you a high five. You want to turn and say hi to the camera? Our friends are watching right now.
say hi, Shama.
Say hi. Say hi over there. Wave at the camera.
Okay.
Wave at the camera. Say hi. All right. Thank you, Shama. We go go see your dad.
Come here, Shama. Come here.
You can sit on his lap if you want.
Come here, son. Tell me what you want. Christmas is coming up. Tell me what you want for Christmas. Come on.
So Shama is. You want to tell him a little bit about Shama?
A little bit about Shama. All right, Shama Sundar Das. That's his full name. He Shama Sundar is a name of God, of Krishna, and it means, it's roughly translated as Shama is dark, the kind of hue of a dark rain cloud, that deep dark blue, and Sundar means beautiful, so it's like beautiful like a dark rain cloud, and Das means servant, so it's like Shama's a servant of God. It's like you'll hear that a lot. All of our kids have the last name Das or Dasi. The girls, Dasi is the female form of that. And Shama was he was born with he was born with a kind of a Down syndrome, like autistic mix, kind of. And he's 20. How old are you now, Shama?
I'm 23.
23 years old. 23 years old this September, and yeah, he's just he's just a pleasure to have around. He's really loves the chanting we were talking about earlier, about the hearing and repeating of God's names and transcendental sounds. They're either transcendental sounds, either God's names directly or qualities associated with God. And so Shama, he's listening to it actually right now. He's 24/7. He's locked in. He's got his playlist, right? Yeah. He leads a very simple life of shooting marbles and listening to chanting and just
He loves his soda pop, right?
Loves his soda pop. Loves soda pop. Loves pizza, ice cream, right?
Yes, man.
And it's often been like his mom, Rebecca, has often said that Shama, in this lifetime, he has it kind of good because his desires are few, his distractions are kind of few. Like he's not chasing us around to get like a hot sports car, or get that high 6-figure career. Or what is it now? Like 8 figures. But yeah, his life is pretty simple and direct. He likes his chanting and he likes his he has a few extracurricular activities he likes to do, and yeah, it's been a little challenging over the years, but yeah, he's one of my best friends.
Well, hold on, buddy. We're doing the podcast, so after the podcast, I'll let you try them, okay?
Yes,
You want to do your marbles for a bit?
sure good.
Okay. Thank you, Shama. Thanks for stopping by, man. We really appreciate you. I've always enjoyed your company, and
Fun, a lot of fun.
Good.
we have a good time with Shama. It's always an adventure, and I always enjoy the different sayings. He's very verbal, he's very communicative, and very functional, high-level functional, which I find really, really entertaining.
Yes, very he's very entertaining.
Yeah,
Hours and hours of fun.
yeah.
So,
So he's a great guy to be around, and he'll get back to his marbles now, and we'll continue on. So there's a whole variety of critters and creatures here that we could go through, and you could tell us about each one. We don't obviously probably don't have time, but
Yeah.
maybe in a future episode we could do a more focus on the cows.
oh yeah,
'Cause
oh yeah,
I definitely want to start getting into depths with some animals and some farming stuff, and
yeah. I love cows.
there's a couple cows out there, and you can see them right now that are
10, soon to be more. They're having babies pretty soon.
yeah, I was
They're
just saying
pregnant.
there's a couple
Oh, we're pregnant.
the couple pregnant ones, and there's a couple little bulls as well, mini bull.
Two bulls, two bulls. Mondi and Mirari.
Yeah, let's take the floor. Why don't you talk about the cows for a bit?
Yeah. All right. Okay. The cows. The cows are great. I love cows. I love all animals really. I'm definitely an animal person.
And if I could just interject, what's the significance of the cows? I know a lot of people are going, well, don't the Hindus worship cows, and why do they worship cows, and why are they sacred?
This leads me to another thought. I'm gonna try to be speaking only from personal experience.
Okay.
I have a tendency to go a little outside of my realm and my pay grade, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So I'll bet, like as you said earlier, maybe sometime in the future we can kind of break it down a little bit more, do a little bit more of a deep dive into it. But I'm probably not the I'm not the guy to get into the
depths of that.
the depths of that. I do have resources and friends that are definitely have a lot more experience which is the key. Personal experience being the key that I do. But I'll tell you my own little take on it. Cows are just really cool. They're for me personally, they're great to be around. Their vibe is really calming and uplifting. Cow cuddling is a major thing nowadays. People will invite people over to their property and to their establishment and actually charge people to just hug cows and lay home cows and stuff. And,
Wow.
I do that. I do that here quite frequently. Just
Charge people to come hug the cows.
yeah, and it's just this is actually something I could really get into. There's so many things. Once again, I want to thank you, Sky, for bringing up the podcast, because I definitely, a lot of these things are near and dear to my heart, the meditation and the animals and the land and the bhakti yoga. But anyway, to the cows that I often question myself sometimes too. I was out there the other day hanging out with Boomy, which is she's our oldest cow. Oldest meaning we got her first. She was kind of like a rescue. And I was thinking to myself, I never envisioned myself having such a close tie or relationship with cows. But a lot of that too does tie in with my spiritual practice, which is I got the phone.
That's all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce. I thought we were gonna have a special guest here. That's a part of our mission here. Part of the mission statement at in the Shenandoah Valley at our farm. It's a little budding farm, you know, it's just starting out. We've been here for about 5 years, but okay, well, let me just say too, I'm a practicing vegetarian. I have been for about 20 years now. No, longer actually, maybe longer than I was. I just turned 50 this past year, and
Past couple days, you mean?
past couple days, yeah. Happy birthday to
I just
me.
got here on Tommy's birthday, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Pleasant surprise. But this is, yeah, like I said, it's kind of near and dear to my heart. Is that when I was about, you know, Sky mentioned about spiritual journeys earlier and his own personal path, and part of my own personal path too was when I was about, I'd say I was about 20 years old, 19. I was in a position where I come from a really blue collar. You know, I was raised on a real kind of meat and potatoes diet, and not only that, but a lot of junk food. And you know, I was raised around a lot of hunters, and hunting was a big part of my upbringing. And so a lot of the things I was interested in really kind of stood out. Things like more of like a meditation, prayer, asking questions like, is there a God? Who is God? You know, that I didn't jive with my friends too much, you know, and whenever we were sitting around talking about, you know, girls, guns, or trucks, or football, and I would say, hey guys, you know, you ever wonder like if there's God or anything like that? I was shut down real fast, you know. And didn't even know. A good friend of mine, Shankar, he asked me if there was a health food store in my neighborhood, and I said there was since like the 70s, but I didn't even know it was there until I was like in my 20s. It was a little corner store, health food store. Anyway, so when I was about 19 or 20, and I just almost spontaneously started to. I was a fat kid, you know. So
Really?
I was a fat man by this point.
That's hard for me to wrap my mind around.
Yeah, that's another plug for vegetarianism. It's like was probably one of the main motivators was I was probably up around like 230.
Damn.
Maybe a little bit heavier, because I mean I'm talking like, you know, it's like, you know, triple Big Macs every day, and like big gulp sodas, ding dongs, you know, Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Pepsi, you know, no water.
Oh, I'm just picturing it now. I can't.
Yeah, it's gross. It was. I saw pictures of myself. You know, it's just like. But anyway, I almost like spontaneously started to stretch, walk more, and that's something I've never really thought about why that started happening, but maybe at a later time I can maybe more elaborate on that. But I was, even though the people around me weren't drawn to those things, I was for some reason. And I mean, I know why that is now, but at the time I didn't know. But anyway, I had a dog, and Cassidy was his name, and you know, I would just sit around. My mother was passed away by this time. I was just living with my dad, but I was basically just like a couch bum. But I would sit around and I'd read books on like philosophy and meditation and stuff. And I remember one time I was just kind of like sitting there petting my dog, and I looked at him in the eyes, and I was petting him, and I thought, like I wouldn't eat you. Like, why would I eat a cow? Or like, because I saw the presence of a person there, you know, in his eyes, I don't know, like that day, I just was just like, I mean, it was real like, I don't know, I want to use the word rudimentary. I don't know what that means, but just a basic gradual changes to my diet. I was like, I'm gonna eat like, I don't even know. I cut meat out of my diet. I did. It was like a lot of grilled cheese, a lot of like PB&J, peanut butter and bananas, orange juice instead of like Pepsi, like herbal tea instead of like, a lot of alcohol and stuff like that.
So just that one moment of looking in your dog's eye, that's what did it for you?
I almost. I mean, it's now that you ask me, it almost yeah. I mean, who was that dog? I don't know.
Right, you noticed something spiritual.
So, yeah, that because it wasn't really it wasn't that closely tied into what would become my life giving true spiritual identity and path. I wavered on it a little bit. Like I thought, maybe it's just like maybe it's just a physical thing. So I don't get fat. It makes me I feel better and I feel lighter when I eat more salad and stuff. But there was always that the main reason was that spark of compassion. Like I didn't want to hurt another living being. But sometimes I eat if my friends offered me like deer or like venison, which I felt like wasn't part of the slaughterhouse industry, which, I totally, what's the word, abhor. I hate thinking of the slaughterhouse industry. It's, read about it. If you don't know about it, read about it, because it's really it's horrible. But I think those things were, stuff like that were catalysts to part of good karma, which would be like good karma yoga. It's like it also has a purifying effect. Good works, not harming other living entities, living a more like a mode of goodness lifestyle. Trying to get away from intoxicants and eating meat and stuff like that. So that just kind of gradually led me on into try to keep it simple. So I continued that off and on over the years. I tried to, try to be a vegetarian and curtail like other bad habits that I had. But it wasn't until I started, when I first met practicing Krishna devotees and bhakti yogis, that I took on the vegetarianism as a commitment and understood more the reasons why, like the deeper meanings of why it's so important not to harm if unnecessarily other living entities. And I guess that kind of, I want to try to get back to the cows, but I guess that it's just kind of piggybacking off that is another thing you'd asked me earlier about a little bit about the philosophy is, and a lot of times when I'm asked this, I try to keep it really simple for myself and simple for others. Is that we're all, like you were saying, Scott, about the chicken and the different animals. We're all, and what you mentioned about Cassidy the dog, is that we're all persons. That's what I'd heard from some of the teachers at the meditation center that I lived at, Lotus Garden Meditation Center. Put in Carmel, California, the plug. Call before you show up, man. Call before you arrive. Don't just show up.
Lotus Garden Meditation Center.
Lotus Garden Meditation Center, yeah. No, just call. make an appointment, because,
Sacramento, California, for all you tuning in. If you want to check out this meditation
if
spot,
you want to learn
where Tommy
more, that's
started meditating. It's still open and still running, and still a great resource for seekers, truth seekers.
Could explain things a lot better than I, but trying to tie it in. So the fact that in every, chicken, cow, person, and then you can go deeper than that, but just, every living being, there is a person there, present in that body. And that's where I'd heard. I mean, I always thought person as a human being. That's what I was. So, if they would say like, well, like a cow's not a person, a dog's not a person. That's a dog and a cow. A human being is a person. Person means personality. There's the thoughts, feelings, emotions there, and so. And each one of those persons is a part of God, the supreme person, source, and just as sometimes you'll hear the term like made in the image of God. We have likes, dislikes, love and be loved. So each of those persons have the same characteristics, and if we want to have a relationship with God, then it just goes without saying that we want to be, to be pleasing, to do things that are, just like anybody, like if you're somebody you want to be friends with, you find out what they like, and, you don't want to do what they don't like, or it's something that would make they would be sad for. So anyway, I heard that I guess God loves everybody and He cares about everyone, and that includes cows. that includes cows and dogs and chickens, and and part of our mission here on our farm is to raise awareness that, animals in general, because the world as we see it now needs compassion and needs understanding and connection. I heard that in my experience with addiction. I heard the term that the opposite of addiction is connection. Is that when you're addicted to something, it's like you're closed off from other people because you're only thinking of yourself,
right?
My own happiness, my own desires,
right?
But when you try to make connection, it's like that's what I'm longing for. It's like we talked about earlier about my real self, and part of that. I know I'm jumping around here, but there's, like I said, we, so much got sparked by our conversation, that, the desire that I have qualities that are just inherent in everybody. And one of them is to need connection and to love and be loved. And I want to do the things that encourage that connection and find out and not do the things that stop that connection from happening. So, in terms of part of what we do here on the farm is that in terms of the cows is try to raise awareness, because we know, like Rebecca and I know that in the Western, not just Western culture, but animals are just perceived in different ways. It's like and I hear it every day because, you know, of my, like I was saying earlier, my association isn't just specifically because of my station in life is I go out and I associate with a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds and philosophies that it's just not practicing vegetarians or practicing yogis. It's, you know, people from all walks of life, and we don't want to, what's the word, like
Come across.
exclude or
Yeah.
or you know maybe so much make it we want to look for the similarities and not the differences, and we understand that not it, you know, people especially in the West, like myself included, you know, I'm like, dogs and cats have feelings and emotions because we have relationships with them, and we take them into our house, and you know we pet them and we get to know them and we get to love them. Whereas, like, I mean, cows and chickens, I mean, pretty much people don't have that relationship with them, you know. So, you know, most people you say to your, you know, like, hey, like, you know, have like a dog burger or something, people would be like, oh my God, like that's, you know, evil or like the worst thing in the world. Like I would never like eat my dog or I would never eat my cat. That's Fluffy.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy, you know, like, no way, you know. But same thing is that we want people to see that, you know, cows they're more than just a burger, or they're more than just, you know, it's more than just, you know, there's feelings there, there's personalities there, you know, there's that individual, just like me, that individual person. And then I'll just say cow sometimes. Sometimes, you know, people might take it odd if you say that cow's got, you know, they have desires, they have affection for their calves, their lives, you know, they have a right to live, you know, just like everybody, they have a right to, like, I think that's the thing about life that's hard sometimes is we tend to look in what's called materialistic life, which is what can others do for me? What can others give me? That, well, if there's nothing they can do for me, then they're worthless, you know. But the cow doesn't need to give me anything to have a reason to live, I guess, and to go about their business.
Right.
You know, they're just, I mean, on that level too, their life is just as important as mine. You know, it's like
And I guess
God loves, and I guess that's hard too, because I mean, definitely in the human form of life, I have different capabilities and different understandings, but God doesn't love me any more or any less than my dog or my cat or chicken or cow, you know. It's just, I'm in a position where I'm learning how to relate on that level, on a more like personal. So anyway, I don't want to lose the plot or the track, but yeah, that's that thing. So, you know, instead of we try to stray away from, like, if I have conversations, I don't too much get into like the karmic reaction of
right.
eating the cows or killing the chickens. It's more like, well, these are the relationships we have with them. You know, the chickens, they live. No, we don't kill our chickens. They eat the bugs. They fertilize our garden. You know, they're working. You know, and we, you know, we tend to like show people like the interactions of our kids with them too, holding them, raising them, and then same with the cows. You know, they provide dung for that we, you know,
Fertilizer.
manure that we put into the garden. We milk the cows, so you know we use the milk for different preparations, and curd is an amazing substitute. Some people say the substitute for the desire for, you know, the propensity to eat meat, the desire to eat meat, and it's just as more nutritionally sound, and you know, less, you know, there's no harm involved in it. You know,
Right, that's
unless you
certainly-
consider like a quick squeeze of the teat, like harm.
I was gonna say, I think cheese is my main food group that I've been able to get off of meat. you know.
It's a weakness for sure, cheese. But I mean that's I don't mean to interrupt, but that's pretty much the gist of it. And like I said earlier, the daily practices of japa meditation and kirtan and the good karmic works of just being kind to others and helping others out when I can. It's got a lot of people in the West were raised with a Christian background, and that's pretty much familiar to everybody. Love God and others, and that's what Jesus really focuses on. That is loving your neighbor, clothing your neighbor, feeding your neighbor. That's why there's so many charities. Those are all what would be considered like good karmic works. And that's pleasing to God too. But then again, brings you closer. God knows that you're. Oh, look, it's like being very nice,
Helping others.
to people that I love. So then the relationship grows. So. It's just it's real simple, and like when you get down to it, but it's the most sublime too. It's just I'm a person, God's a person, and that relationship is what I'm seeking in my life, and the chanting and the karma yoga and the chanting and are the methods to reestablish that relationship. It's like it's been said. I'm a good friend of ours, and a dear teacher and a mentor in the whole Big Island of Hawaii. Sort of another plug to Garuda Das and his wife Mukunda Dasi. Garuda used to always say it's just we have these it's like we have a misgiving with God and in our relationship, and all we have to do, it's like a relationship that you had a little falling out or something, and I'm trying to mend that relationship by just asking for forgiveness, trying to just be the best person that I can be, and just like any relationship, it's like if you're being I don't know if this is this like a G-rated like podcast.
No, you can say
it's,
whatever you want.
It's like if you're like you're being a dick to your friend or whatever, and like you have an argument, and then you kind of, with the difference being that God doesn't.
I'll ask the producers actually, because I don't know.
Okay, yeah. Doesn't turn his back on me. I turn it. It's like I have some problem with him, and I'm just mending that relationship. And it's, I don't know how long I've been mending that relationship or trying to get back in the good, on his good side. But
yeah.
Anyway, I see the results. Ever since I started to take up this practice with some effort, I've seen tangible results, and I guess it's one of those situations where, like they say, you would have had to have known me before,
right,
to see a big difference. But even even you and I, we've known each other this life for a few years, but just as like I can see changes in your life, I'm guessing you can see them in mine too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I see the effects it has on everybody around me. Helps me to be just on a daily level, helps me to be a productive, healthy, productive member of society.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that, Tommy. And it's really nice to hear about your farm and your practice here. And hopefully those will be beneficial for others, listening. There was a few.
Take the conversation hostage or anything.
Take the floor. It's all right. I think we still got plenty of time here, so I'd like to bounce a few ideas and talk for a bit. I know that you did mention a few things which the audience may or may not be familiar with, and so I thought I could expound upon those and also kind of talk about my own vegetarian diet. Because it seems like you're a very thoughtful guy. You've put a lot of thought into this, into the way that you kind of live your life and the decisions that you make.
My wife says too much.
Too much thought, yeah. I could see that. But I'm also thoughtful, and I also tend to put a lot of thought into things, and I think that it could be helpful for more people, if they would take a deep think about the situation that they're in, and could help them make better decisions, and better outcomes, better future outcomes, So help is out there. Yeah, that's right. So for me, I've been vegetarian for like 12 years, and a lot of the points that you made, I think, are very valid and very, very true. And ultimately, I think the deciding factor for me was coming into contact with parampara, or disciple succession. And this is going to be my leeway into an explanation of a few of the terms that you kind of threw out there that people may not be familiar with. So disciple succession is essentially an unbroken chain of spiritual masters or spiritual teachers that have passed down knowledge without changing it from time immemorial, tracing all the way back into the spiritual dimension. And so it's known as the most authoritative way of receiving knowledge, because it's a method of preservation. So that guarantees that it carries the weight of authority, and it's not something that's been, made up like the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints church, where someone comes along and says, well, I've made up all this stuff, and I'm the new prophet, and listen to what I say. And then you look deeper at that situation and you go, oh wait, what's actually going on here? And 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, it's sexual exploitation, right? Like that seems to be the main, or financial, or all of the above, right? And so that's the problem with when a lot of people see people that are doing different things with their spirituality, rather than just the bread and butter of I'm a Buddhist, or I'm an agnostic, or I'm a Christian, or whatever the mainstream is. A lot of people go, well, is that a cult? What are they doing? Because like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's exploitation. But parampara is bona fide. It's basically what every other thing is trying to mimic and trying to look like, but this is the real deal. So when you come into contact with this chain of knowledge that's been preserved and passed down, and you attempt to understand and grasp it and really meditate on these meanings and values to determine whether or not they are true or not, you will find that the information contained within just carries this heavy weight about it that just can't be touched by any other think tank or democratic assembly or group of decisions that people can put forward. So for me, that was what got me into vegetarianism, was basically receiving information through parampara, saying that abstaining from meat, abstaining from intoxicants, abstaining from gambling, and abstaining from illicit sex or sex outside of marriage, that getting rid of these 4 things will lead to an amazing outcome in your life, namely the ability to become free from all attachment and aversion. And so that was why these were called the regulated principles of freedom. And having understood and grasped that from parampara, I just simply went, okay, well, I decide that I'm going to participate in this program, just like if you were to meet a really badass karate master, like Taekwondo, Jeet Kune Do, and you're like, you know what? Sign me up. I'm doing it. I'm doing Jeet Kune Do. I'm going to become a black belt. I'm all in. Let's do this. Get your karate gear on, So for me, it was like that. It was like, all right, you know what? Bhakti yoga. Sign me up. What do we got to do? All right, we got to give this up, give that up. All right, I'm down. Let's do it, So that was kind of my mindset about it. And then later on, after I developed a little bit better qualities, I kind of came to appreciate the angle that you are coming from, which is like more of the angle of actually like having love for other creatures. But like when I came into it, I was like not even considering other creatures. I was only considering myself, but I knew that it was the best decision for myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, something that you said made me think. When you laid out the differences of parampara and um, an unbroken chain of teachers and information that is bona fide and doesn't change, as opposed to more, I guess, let's say like made up or just kind of a patchwork of other like personal like opinions on different processes. So to speak, is that the thing about this process, this that sticks out to me is like that old in the beginning of like one of the books, a Krishna book, where George Harrison from the Beatles, who practiced Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, was the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Is like I always want to tell people that that I meet or the friends that I make that just try it.
Yeah.
That I sometimes want
Give
to
it a
do
shot.
that. Just want to like say okay,
Yeah.
because that's part of the amazingness of it is the direct results, and it's not. We mentioned earlier about the experiencing it from the heart. I mean, I think that's what my experience was. That's what kept me practicing it, as opposed to a billion other practices that I took up before I started chanting. I mean, was it Buddhism or Christianity or you name it, is that I stuck with it because I experienced something beyond. It was a direct personal experience, and the taste that there's one of the prayers by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who started the Sankirtan movement, the process of Krishna consciousness, 500 years ago, is that it always sticks out to me, gives us a taste for the nectar which I'm always anxious for, and when I going back to the japa yoga, I went to a japa meditation class in Sacramento, Lotus Garden, Carmichael, California, and I left that class that day, and it's like it was sealed the deal. I left the class and I went, because I had tastes of peace and of some serenity and calmness, happiness in my life, but from chanting on my beads, japa meditation, I left that class and I was walking through the campus and I recognized it immediately, and I said, that's it. That's the feeling that I've been looking for, like all those years and through all those paths and processes. And I don't know, like you mentioned earlier, that I mean, granted, I wasn't steadfast in it or locked on 100%, but I've always gone back to it though, like
Right.
and it's kept me going. That taste and that the yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, for the audience that's tuning in, a couple of things that Tommy mentioned here, that he's doing with his farm, which is a cow sanctuary, practicing vegetarianism, compassion for all. He mentioned that it was a mode of goodness environment. Now, the mode of goodness is one of the three modes of material nature, which is described in the Vedic or Varnashram system as being three modes, which one of the modes is the mode of ignorance, the other mode is the mode of passion, and the other mode is the mode of goodness. And these three modes are always affecting us, just like the colors of an easel that an artist paints. And there's predominating characteristics from each mode that we can get more into at a later date. But essentially, as far as the categories of places on the planet, mode of goodness is more of a more of a place of natural surroundings, trees, forestry, water, lush landscapes. And then mode of passion would be more of like in the city, all this combustion going on, movement. And then mode of ignorance could be more along the lines of, sleeping, the basement, the dungeon, the jail, something like that. So that's just a brief description. We could get more into further detail, but I just wanted to give you guys kind of a background of some of the terminology that's being used. And he also mentioned karma yoga. Karma yoga is acting and giving up the results of your activities as an offering to God. And that could be done no matter where you are in life, no matter what your occupation is. It just has to do with a consciousness or the mindset of giving those results back to your creator, your source. Anyways, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the podcast. Looks like Tommy had to step out for a bit. Oh, he's coming back. Right on. Sorry, yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, Tommy, for joining us, man, on the Wandering Mendicant. And the last topic I wanted to get into before we close it out here was going to be the music. As you know, I've gotten into music over the last few years, and I wanted to kind of tell the audience because I tend to be a little bit more reclusive these days, just in general because of my personality, which is kind of a juxtaposition. Like we were talking about paradox, with the modern day, the way that the music industry has kind of evolved and stuff with TikTok and virility and everything. Like it really requires these personalities that love to just like constantly put out content and be viral. And me being, having an Aquarius moon, I'm very the opposite of that. Although I have the Leo sun, so people think that I appear to be in the spotlight seeker, but really more of a hermit. And so for me, it's I kind of think of myself as more of a Johnny Depp type, character. That kind of like very eccentric, kind of like secluded, not like modern Johnny Depp. Well, he was acquitted of the charges, So anyway, you're like, oh man. Well, we won't get into that, but anyway, like as far as back in the day, he's a very artistic guy, but he likes his privacy, like he's got his personal life, and then he's got his artistic life, and that's kind of how I've always been with my music and my art, and I like to keep it that way, and I like to think that as a pioneer, I can create my own path, and I don't necessarily have to try to follow some artificial path to fame and glory and things like that. So I let the art speak for itself. My evolution as an artist has come about supernaturally, and that not supernaturally, but maybe supernaturally, but supernaturally. That's what I'm trying to say. And so it's just been a thing that's kind of culminated in a really high quality product of music. And so I've started, doing music videos, and I actually have an offer on the table right now to do an independent film, a musical, that we're actually pursuing. And so this podcast is a part of that whole enrapture, and we're going to be launching this film, Backhaul, within probably the next year or maybe two, we're going to be gathering a team and composing all the music originally and shooting out in Austin, Texas, pretty soon, hopefully in March. So we're just working on the script idea right now, getting that all taken care of. And I have another album coming out, which is a dub album. It's Yogi Revelations. So that's going to be really exciting. In addition to that, I have some acoustic songs that are in the works for another acoustic album. That's kind of like a fan tribute album, because my last acoustic album seemed to do pretty well and get a lot of attention, and it had really great outcomes. So I'm going to continue plowing through on the music, slowly but surely, steadily, bit by bit, piece by piece. And so I look forward to sharing all that stuff with you guys. Tommy is actually a bit of a musician himself, although he doesn't consider himself to be a musician, but I believe that he is. He's got the natural skill and talent for it. And I always enjoy co-creating with him and freestyling with him when I'm here. We do a lot of just on-the-spot creations and just come up with, just utilize the skills and talents that we've developed up until this point, put them to use, and try to just let our minds sit back and get out of the way and just let the music flow. So I thought maybe we could finish up this podcast with a little musical segment, if you'd be down.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. And I just wanted to say, thank you, Sky, for. I'm honored to be, to take part in the grassroots start of your, the back hall story, and thanks for your friendship. And oh yeah, man, I'm beside myself right now.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you
this is cool, man. I didn't know how deep it ran.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're just out here just doing
Starting the journey. It's like, it feels like the journey has just begun.
The journey has, it's just begun. This is like the beginning of something that's
Ground zero.
Yeah, it's gonna build into something. So.
So we're gonna play a tune.
Well, we've been discussing, I think, a lot of the topics that you were sharing had to do with kirtan. So I think probably kirtan would be the best thing to share right now.
I definitely do like spontaneous word soups, but if I know I'm on camera, I'm like, so.
Well, that's what I think kirtan would be really cool, and I could probably drum for you if you wanted to pick up the guitar.
Guitar. Well, let's see here. I got to.
Maybe I'll just quietly drum because the mic's gonna be.
Yeah, I'll try to quietly strum too. I got to retune this guitar because Shamsundar Das.
Maybe because the mic's this way, maybe play that way.
Shamsundar Das.
It picks up quite loud.
It was in his way.
Let's just do a quick one, just in case the audio is experiencing, because we may have to cut this segment out. I'm not sure, but hopefully it'll fly. So thanks everyone that's been tuning in on our podcast segment, and for those of you that want to stick around for the kirtan, just keep on tuning in. My name is Billy Sky, and this is Tommy Lazar. We've been live streaming from you here in Edinburg, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, at the farm. Do you have a name for the farm? Is it?
We have a lot of different names for it. So a lot of times we refer to it as Boomy's farm. Boomy was our first cow, but sometimes we'll say the Lazars.
Here at Boomy's farm.
Boomy's
Farm.
farm.
So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you at episode 2. Namaste. All right, you want to take us away? Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Itinamine
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhagavata
Masha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Gauranga 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 Hare
Gauranga, 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 Hari Bol.
Gauranga 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 Hare
Gauranga, 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 Hari Bol.
Gauranga 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 Hare
Gauranga, 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 Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya
Jaya Jaya Gaudev.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Guru
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Bo Shama.
Abba. Praise God.
Thank you guys.